Hi, everyone. This is Amanda Mills from Astrology for Success and Larry Turnley as well from.
Hi, everybody.
So we're talking about astrology versus numerology, and this is part 3. So if you're just tuning in on this particular YouTube, then you might want to go back and look at part 1 and 2, or maybe you don't want to, because in this one we're covering life number 7, 8, and 9. So if you are a life number 7, 8, or 9, and we're covering Libra, Scorpio, and Sagittarius. So maybe you want to disregard the other ones, or maybe you want to tune in because you have planets in the other ones. So you're a Libra, Larry. So this one you've got a lot of insight into.
You would think
And,
so, wouldn't you?
yeah, and you're actually a 9 as well. So
Yeah.
once again, so
But Libra is the 7th sign in the zodiac, and therefore it brings in that 7. So, talking from a 7 perspective,
yes,
it's It's a practical number. It lines up with 1, 4s, and 7. 7s is the big picture, practical. So it brings in philosophy, looking behind the scenes. They like to work behind the scenes. They don't want to be the front person, 7s.
Right. Yeah.
They're investigators and researchers. And they're perfectionists. They can suffer addictions and have drinking problems.
Wow.
So
And
sevens.
what would be the cure for that if you're in life number 7? Like, what do they really need to lean into something else, like lean into spirituality or something?
Look, it's really interesting. 7s have a natural ability to reflect and look in the mirror.
Right.
So they're very good at holding the mirror up to everybody else, but don't like that being done back to them.
Yes, so I do know a couple of 7s, and they are like that, so I have to say.
Yeah, they only want to look when they want to look.
Yeah.
So, but they always hold information back. They only tell you half the story.
Right. Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah.
And that would apply if you've got a 7 in your actual birth chart as well, would that?
Yes,
so
correct.
that same quality.
Yeah.
I do have a 7 in there, so you're only getting half the story.
The 7s are very good practically, and they often find themselves in support roles. Right. So they like to play a support role. They don't want to be the front person. They a lot of the time want to operate from behind the scenes.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And they're quite spiritual, or you said philosophical?
Yeah, I think they have a natural bend towards philosophy, mysticism, spiritualism, religion, that sort of thing. They like to look for the reasons and purpose. Who am I, what am I, and where am I going?
Yeah.
So, we're stepping into this different dimension with 7, 8, 9. We did 1, 2, and 3, which was the personal numbers. 4, 5, and 6 were the family, community-orientated numbers. Now we're stepping into 7, 8, 9, the big picture, wanting to understand numbers.
And so comparing that 7 qualities to a Libra, do you think there's any similarities, or we're not really got similarities? Because some of the qualities you talk about there sound very Scorpio-ish to me.
Yeah, Librans are an air sign, and they're quite, they're cardinal energy, so they get up and go and doers.
So to explain cardinal energy, it's like it's an energy of like they'll go, that's moving forward. So Aries is a cardinal. Yeah, Cancer is a cardinal sign. Capricorn and Libra, they're the cardinal signs. So they do act, but it depends on. It's interesting because like an Aries will act, like just get into doing things probably, and before they even think about it, like they're jumping into something. Cancers tend to act, I find, a lot of the time when it comes to the family, or if it's something to do with family, or to do with security, or that will really get them moving. What sort of do you think actions are Libra? Like, is it relationships? What is it?
Well, like Librans are known for partnerships. It's a house of partnerships, isn't it? So but you'll find that with that seven overlay on Librans, that they do have a quieter side and a sit back side that you mightn't actually see, because Librans are quite out there, you know.
Yes. I do find with a lot of Librans or people with Libra in their chart, though, they love being in a relationship, and you do find them, but they also, being an air sign, Libras love their space. So I find they're like, they almost want you in the house, but in a different room.
That's right.
It's nice. I'm in a relationship, but I've got my space. I'm doing my own thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and sevens are very much like that. They need their time out. They need their space. They need their connection to nature, and they need time to think, and they value their privacy.
Would they overthink?
Yeah, look, they tend to over-research. Yeah, so, and they want experts in everything, you know?
Yeah,
Sevens,
that's interesting. My sister's both a 7 on a personal, because she's on 16. I have to add up the rest of her date, but she's also a Libra, and she's an enormous researcher. Like, she should have been a researcher in her career. That's what she does all the time.
Yeah, no, it's quite interesting.
Yeah.
So I find, like, I don't think, I mean, there's just that sort of, it gives a different undertone to Librans, you know, it really does. It gives them this depth of wanting to be understood.
So if that's if you're this is if you're a 7 and you've got
7,
Libra in you.
You want to be understood.
Right, okay.
And the funny thing is, they don't give you a lot of information to be understood.
Yeah. Well,
they expect you to be mind readers.
I find that with Libra, it's like, you know, they can be people pleasers, so it's very agreeable. Oh, where do you want to go for dinner? Oh, yeah. Oh, well, I don't mind. Where do you want to go? And so then they're out at the restaurant. They're like, I really wanted Indian, not Chinese tonight. So it's sort of almost like they won't say, but then it's like they do what they want.
Sevens in relationships they're mirroring you. So if you say I love you, they'll say, oh, I love you too.
Yes.
You know, so they're waiting to see what the lay of the land is, and then they
what the tone is.
Yes. So in a relationship, they're watching their partner like a hawk.
Right. Okay.
So it's a very sensitive number. So they don't like being in the limelight. They don't like being picked on. They don't want to be isolated. All that sort of stuff. So they're hedging all the time to play into people on a big picture level, you know?
Right. But some great qualities are the ability to research, that philosophical quality, that sort of maybe spiritual, because I do find with a lot of 7s that I do know that it's almost like they feel a little bit like a square peg fitting in a round hole. So did I say that right? Yes. It's almost like, you know, if the job is not fulfilling, or if they, you know, just almost that, like needing that, you know, feeling like they're really of service or of her, you know.
Their purpose is to ask the big questions.
Yeah.
So if you get a child with 7s, 8s, and 9s, they're always saying, "Why, Mum? Why do you do this? Why does that work like that? Why do you do that? Why do you do?" They're always why?
Yeah.
Because they want to know and they want to understand. Yeah.
And be able to sort of perhaps then.
So they're holding up that mirror and they're asking the bigger questions about, well, what's the purpose behind this? So a lot of the time they'll take things apart without knowing how to put them back together.
Ah, okay. Does that include relationships?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's a funny one. With Libras, they're ruled by Venus. So Venus is the sign of beauty, the arts. You know, I find with Libras, they can be really attracted to anything, or to me, an excessive going in the wrong way Libra is the Libra that's maybe going too much cosmetic surgery or too much in the beauty space. Like it's like overdoing it. But the balance being, you know, you can find beautiful things anywhere in nature. You can find beautiful things, you know. So to me, you know, going too far can be going that way, and wanting to sort of like be still surrounded by beauty, you can surround yourself by plants or flowers, or, you know, there's a lot of beauty in the world. So, you know, a more correct use of Venus. But liking the sweet things in life, really.
Yeah, look, it's they're an air, being an air sign, there's that mental stimulation.
Yeah.
And sometimes if they're not getting attention or
Yeah.
getting their own way, Librans,
Yeah.
they can arc up,
Mm.
or retreat. I
Yeah.
definitely find sevens like to retreat into their cave
Mm.
to work things out for themselves before they come back out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I find Librans really social, but they've got this whole retreat side to them.
Absolutely. Like I mentioned to
Yeah.
you, like almost you can be with them, but they want to be in a different room. Like it's like
Yeah,
so
yeah.
different, so they're there, but they're not there. Yeah.
And I reckon they're really funny. Like I'm really bad. Like if I don't want to be there, I make it really obvious I don't want to be there. If I've got along to something I don't want to go to with my partner and I don't want to be there, I can't hide it.
Yeah, right. You just won't go.
Yeah.
Which would be really, because I find Libras are very people pleasing. So that's probably really owning your stuff. And that's really probably a great, you probably had to work at that, because it's probably easier to, well, not easier, but, saying no or setting up the boundaries is really the thing you want to do. So not doing those things you don't want to do. I mean, we feel bad about saying that, but.
Yes. Yeah, setting emotional boundaries. I think, that's been an important thing to say what you're thinking. The sevens is sort of the start of us becoming aware of how much attention we're paying to what other people think, feel, and say about us.
Yeah, yeah.
And so sevens really have their antenna pointed out with their sensitivity. They're very romantic and all that, but it can work against them if they're listening to what everybody else thinks, feels, and says.
Yeah, right.
So that's one of their learning curves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So that's Libra and 7. So let's move on to 8. I'm a bit fascinated by 8. My son's an 8. He's a 17-8. And we're also the sign we're moving on to is Scorpio. So it's Scorpio versus the 8 life number. We didn't add this in. If people haven't listened to the other videos, working out your life number, you add up all the dates. So for example, my son, he's the 2nd of the 6, 2007. So I think that adds up to a 17 and then an 8. Is that right? Down to an 8. I'm pretty sure. I've done it before.
Well done. Yes, that works.
Yeah.
So what is the Amanda? The 2nd of the what? 6.
2nd of the 6, 2007. So it's 2 plus 6 is 6, 7, 8. 8 plus 2 is 10 plus 7 is a 17. And so it's a 17, and we take that down to an 8, and it's called a 17-8. Yeah.
So that type of 17-8, the component numbers, that he has a 7 as a component number in that 8.
Yes. Yeah.
So a lot of the 7 attributes I was just talking about apply to him. He likes his privacy. He likes his time.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Very interesting.
110%.
8, we're moving into the big picture emotional number. So the other emotional numbers is 2, 5, and 8. 2 being the personal emotional, 5 being the family emotional, 8 being big picture emotional. 8 take responsibility emotionally for everybody.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So that their big learning curve is that they have no power emotionally in anybody else's life.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
In a nutshell. Yeah.
So do you think power issues is a really big thing for them? For that 8, is it generally speaking power issues?
Control.
Yeah.
Trying to control. So 8s will be really nice people, do the right thing, follow rules and regulations and laws and all that. And are very polite, turn up on time, do all the right things. All the even numbers are 2, 4, 6, 8s are the female numbers, and they're the ones that do the right thing.
Yeah.
But actually 8 can spend a lot of time doing the right thing for everybody else.
Right. Okay. And not for themselves.
to make them feel good. They think they have the power to make them feel good, which will then they will like them because I'm making you feel good.
Right. Okay. That's going to be an interesting dynamic to watch that one unfold.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they can put a lot of time and energy into people around them.
Yes.
And
sometimes that's a recipe, and we know that's a recipe for disaster sometimes, because
and they find it very hard to choose themselves and make space for themselves.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, because they set relationships up by emotionally putting other people first.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. But they're very organized. They're very fair income. They're hard workers. They do a great job. They're business orientated, government orientated. They generally like to work in structured, bigger organizations because there's structure in them. And 8s like to know when something's going to start and when something's going to end. Right. They need to know what the process is before they start.
That is so my son. Yes. He really tell me everything that's going on before we go and do it. Even
that's right.
Review of what tomorrow's going to look like almost.
Yeah. I don't want any surprises.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, that's definitely, yeah.
So they're very organized and very structured. And it's just that emotional learning curve where they go full circle and they've put everybody else first and haven't learned to set emotional boundaries and choose themselves. Yeah.
So that's their sort of life path lessons as such. And we always associate 8 with money. Are they usually good at attracting money? Are they money people? Is that something we usually find? Yeah.
Yes, 8s and money. Yep. They love money and they work very hard for it. They'll work very hard for it. Yeah. Right. If you see in the grid they've got an 8 and a 4, they have very good money skills because it gives them the hard working, get my hands dirty, count every little cent with the big picture management of money.
Right. Okay.
So you get the big picture and the small picture that they are very good with. But people with 8s and 4s, they know how to count their money.
If you've got that in your in your blueprint, if you don't know how to do that, contact us and we'll tell you how to do it. We might do another video explaining people how to do that.
Yeah, the grid. Yeah, correct.
So
8s could work towards that. That could be they can work very hard to be successful. Yeah.
I find my son naturally attracts a lot of money somehow. It's like it's just always been his thing since he was sort of born. So just interesting because people always associate the 8s with money, and it's considered a lucky sort of number. So compared to Scorpio, like we know Scorpios almost sound a lot like what you described as a 7, that sort of, liking to be behind the scenes. I mean, I have Scorpio moon myself, so I know doing videos is hard for me. It depends on what I'm talking about, though, honestly. Some things I can do it and some things I can't. If it's for work, I can usually do it. So definitely they don't always like being seen. I remember when I studied astrology, the teacher said all the Scorpios, the people with planets in Scorpio, they sort of were sitting in the corner. So you find them in the corners, almost like a spider, more in the shadows in the dark. They're not in that front row. They're at the back in the corner, sort of, a little bit more low profile. Of course, unless they've got sort of planets in there that are really, shining out.
Are they a fixed sign?
They are a fixed sign, so very hard to convince to change. So the fixed signs being Taurus, Scorpio. What else have we got that's fixed? Aquarius, which I never think is a fixed sign. It doesn't seem like it would be a fixed sign, but it's a fixed sign.
Leo.
And Leo, yes.
Because they're because they're a water sign, does that make them emotional based or relationship based?
They're very sensitive and emotional, but they have such a great poker face. In fact, the Virgo and and Scorpio symbol is the M, and they're almost the same, Virgos and Scorpios, and that you could almost like, if I was picking a sign, sometimes you can confuse I can pick someone as being a Scorpio and they're a Virgo, or vice versa. They're very similar on first impression, and they both are the same symbol. They've got the M, but the of course the Virgo's got that nice little neat M that folds back over. But the Scorpio's got like that arrow that's at the end of the M. Very similar. So they've Scorpios are like extremely sensitive people, but they hide it really well. So they're like that ultimate, you know, the boxers when they're competing against each other, how you've got to have that front, I always think, you know, that you wouldn't know what they're going through unless you're really, you know, part of their very inner circle. And that's the thing about Scorpios, is they have an inner circle. So you're either in the circle or you're out the circle. And if you're in the circle, like they'll literally do anything for you. Like they will, you know, it's like a life or death. They're great signs to have around if you're going through the trenches. So they're, you know, when you're going through a crisis, you want to go to someone that's a Scorpio. They've been in the crisis, they've been in the trenches before, so they can really hold that space. If you get like a sign that's not so well and adapted at dealing with it, they may want to run for the hills. But a Scorpio, it's like they've been down in the trenches, they've dealt with the life and death sort of situations, so they can really hold that space for you really well. So that's where they really come. That's where they can be a really great support. So yeah, very interesting. But they do really have that poker face, like the Virgos do. Very much a poker face. You don't know how sensitive or what's going on behind there.
So their eighth house, what's it represent in eighth house?
So the eighth house is sort of debt and taxes.
It's is sort it of death like, and regeneration?
It is, because it's really like that Plutonic Scorpion house. So it's like about, it is definitely the houses of, you know, like tax inheritances. You know, so, you know, if Jupiter's going around and sitting in your eighth house, I remember that happened to me during COVID, and I was able to get a lot of grants from the government. So it's like, you know, that was like a pot of gold coming from them. It's like it could signal an inheritance, or being able to live off somebody else's resources, perhaps. So perhaps you know, having a rich family member or a wealthy family, and you're able to live off their resources. It's also, definitely sort of, you know, the death and the regeneration, because that's really the whole theme behind Pluto, isn't it? And Scorpio, Pluto, the planet of Scorpio.
Are Scorpios sensitive?
Very sensitive, but like I said, they hide it. So you don't always know, but they're really probably just as sensitive as your other water sign counterparts, but they won't wear their heart on their sleeve as much. Like,
how do they react?
And they can be quite vengeful as well. So I'm always like, I have a neighbor that's a Scorpio, and someone upset them one day, and I go, "Oh my God, don't do that." They'll be, you know, plotting these vengeful thoughts, even emanating these vengeful thoughts. I feel like so they can be quite vengeful. They can be quite, you know, vengeful, but then they can also be the other way as well, where they're like, you know, that great support act, you know, they're a friend for life. But like I said, you're either in the circle or outside of the circle. And actually, interesting enough, I have Scorpio moon, my ex-husband had Libra moon, and this was always something that until I studied astrology, I'd never understood, because he would see there's two sides to a story, and see two sides to a particular thing. Whereas I had Scorpio moon, and it just, I mean, the fury I felt at that, because I'm like, there's only one side because you're married to me. So, you know, I really needed to listen to a Pisces that has a lot more empathy. So
is that a Scorpio trait? There's only one side. It's very much a Scorpio trait.
You're either in the circle, and if you're in the circle, you better act like you're in the circle, and we all defend one another. Or if you're out the circle, then it's, you know, it doesn't really matter. We don't care about them as much. So they definitely have an inner circle of people. That might be inner circle of family members that they really look after and prefer.
Work.
Might be their kids, that, you know, might be, workmates. It could be friends, whoever it is. They'll have those. There may not be a lot, but they'll be very, very, you know, bonded to.
Do they need to be needed?
I think so, and they can do power games and control and manipulate to be needed. So I do find that as well. So that does come into play, and I think that's really some of the struggles that Scorpio will go through, learning to sort of to let go and to not. They can be very like they're very psychic and they're very powerful. I find Scorpios are like I believe we all manifest, but I find with Scorpios they've like it's almost like they've got a wand, and unless they learn to control it, they're manifesting the good and the bad. They can be very paranoid though, because like someone's out to get me, betrayal issues. Betrayal is a big thing because it's like they almost are, you know, that's part of the lessons they tend to learn, being betrayed by partners, by friends, by, you know,
I heard
people.
that forgiveness is one of the biggest lessons for Scorpios.
Absolutely. So, and I think that would get rid of a lot of the paranoia, because that can be the problem. They're very psychic. They're very great at manifesting. But the thing is, like, you know, just letting go of that control, which is very hard, letting go of that control.
They don't let go very easy, do they?
No, I can tell you I have Scorpio moon. I mean, and it's very hard for me to let go of that control and not to try and not manipulate in a bad way, but manipulate the situation. You know, sometimes
is that like part of the Scorpio being a fixed sign?
I think so, being a fixed sign. Part of the paranoia, like that something's you know out to get them, or something's going to go wrong, or you know almost that things are, oh no, what, something else is coming up, or so
eights and Scorpios sort of match in with each other quite a bit, don't they? You know,
they do in a way,
because they're both emotional. And
you know they can often experience a lot of like death or loss, like in their life, or you know stuff that really breaks you down. So that's when I said, if you're going through the trenches, you know they may have experienced a lot even at a young age. That you know, so they are quite used to that energy, and they're able to be a great support.
I think they're very good at enduring.
And they will cut you off.
Keeping on.
They are. Well, all the fixed signs are. They'll just keep going. Like, you know, they'll keep getting back up. I always say that about Scorpios. Like, even if they're down to their last dollar, or even if they're like really, you know, you think, oh, that's it, they're out. They'll come. They almost do it.
They'll come back.
Sometimes they come back. Like the phoenix rising. They definitely come back, and they come back bigger. Sometimes even more and stronger. So you can't really count them out. So
fantastic.
You're a Scorpio, and you're hearing this, keep on going.
Correct.
So moving on to Sagittarius and ninth house and a 9. Let's see where that sort of lines up. So you can go about a 9. You're an expert 9, on this one.
9. I am a 9, but 9s are in that understanding number. They want to understand life, and they want to understand people around them and how everything operates. So it's sort of very big picture. So it brings in unionism, politics, power, all that sort of stuff. 9s are in. They're really learning about their management of their own personal power. And how that manifests, you know, so they're very aware of it. You know, if there's rules there, they want to change the rules to make them better. You know, so they're into equity and fairness for everyone. You know, so they'll fight for the underdog if it's unfair and all that. They take up
very
causes.
Sagittarius as well, because Sagittarius is a very much
they're idealistic, aren't they?
So they're very much fighting for like not, you know, some type of justice, not like the Libra type of justice, but like fighting for a cause, or
or other people's issues. They can buy into. 9s can buy into other people's problems because they just like a fight. You know, so they like, you know, to point out what's not fair and what's, you know, very humanitarian, that sort of thing. So 9s are asking all the big questions about how life works, you know, and they want to understand from a big perspective. So psychological, they're into mind games that can be manipulating if they're operating below the line. And if they're above the line, they're into healing and
the other end of it.
Yeah, the other end of it, going down spiritualism in a different path, or
when you see a 9, it does often represent healing, but it can also represent endings and new chapters.
That's right.
So do 9s like to have that?
If you're going through, say, a 9-year, the energy of a 9-year, a lot of the time a 9-year is about everything you don't like.
Yeah.
So sometimes the contrast of what you don't like brings in what you do want. But first off, you've got to know what you don't want. So that's the contrast. To come into a 1 year, come full circle, I've done these 9 years and I need to change my choices and my direction. When you get to a 9-year, it's, well, what have I achieved here? Where am I going and what am I doing? What's my big purpose? So 9s are asking those questions. Yeah, for sure.
Well, and I find Sagittarius are very much like freedom fighters. They're very much into their freedom. I mean, it's definitely associated with overseas travel, other cultures, and so is the 9th house. So it's definitely, higher learning. So it's very much a university. So to me, to me that Sag image is like that long hair, that long-haired hippie sort of almost look.
And they're a fire sign, so they've got plenty of energy and plenty of confidence.
They have like a lot of confidence. And optimistic energy. Like I find my son's got Sag moon. I know a lot of people with Sag moon, and they've definitely got that sort of that positivity that they bring to things. So it's almost they emit that, and that's great because they bring a bit of positivity to the situation. They used to be called a bit of a Pollyanna, like everything's going to be all right tomorrow. But I find Sagittarius do tend to get along with a lot of people for that reason. They're not really those, like, it's the one sign I find, be interested to know if 9s are like this, but I find with Sagittarius, they do tend to blend with everyone. I mean, because they are quite happy and, almost reminds me of the qualities of, like, it's all very Aussie, like at the bar, drinking, having a good time. That to me epitomizes a Sagittarius energy, but also very into other cultures and travel and freedom.
Look, the thing is with 9s, and it's on the mental level, and it's a big picture of the mental level. They're really learning about their mental energy and the power of their mind energy. So they'll go through learning to choose either faith and trust or fear and doubt. So 9s can go through a lot of fears, and going through that, they learn to flick it over to faith and trust. And that's the power of the mind. Glass half full or glass half empty. And a lot of 9s will go fear, and they'll go to worry in their mind, fear, turning over fears and doubts. And it's and it can lead to depression, looking at the past and saying, what if I'd done this, what if I'd done that? So sometimes they can get over focused on fears and doubts, and so learning to do that, it's sort of like empowerment and disempowerment. So they could go through disempowerment to become empowered with their mind energy.
And I find with Sagittarius, obviously we talked about it's ruled by Jupiter, so it's like can be a lucky sort of enthusiastic sign. On the same token, they can tend to be like a little bit too over enthusiastic, or a little bit too like like pushy. maybe
pushy.
And also sort of almost like overbet themselves, like they could be gambling, that gambling quality. I find that sort of, or over.
9s can have an excessive and an extreme sort of disposition as well. So they can go overboard on things, They don't have little ideas, they have big ideas.
Yes, and that's
you
very
know?
Sagittarius as well. Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Sagittarius, the epitome of Sagittarius is like Santa Claus. So that's like when we were
Yes.
studying astrology, Santa Claus almost epitomizes, sort of that
Yeah,
big, jolly, giving away presents, everything's,
yeah,
it's like
yeah,
that's
yeah.
almost like
Larger than
a
life.
larger than
Yeah,
life. It's like,
yeah.
yeah. So it can be quite excessive and in anything,
Yes.
excessive in
Yeah,
eating, excessive in,
yeah,
but you find with a lot of Sag, I find people with Sag rising a lot of it in the limelight. A lot of famous people can have Sag rising.
yeah,
Actors more so probably the Neptune star, so it might be Neptune rising
yeah,
or Neptune in there
yeah,
prominently. But I find, Sagittarius rising, can be almost that guru. They can have a guru quality to
yeah,
them.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, well, I find nines are very much like that too. You know, they
yeah,
have that. They've got a lot of knowledge, and wisdom, and
yeah,
they can use it to empower or disempower.
yeah.
So it's just part of the learning curves they go through. That
Yeah.
nine energy. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. All right. Well,
yeah,
we'll wrap that up here. So that's covering life number 7, 8, and 9, and
yeah.
covering Libra, Scorpio, and Sagittarius. If you do want to get a astrology reading, I'm available at Amanda at astrologyforsuccess.com.au, being in Australia. And you're the best way to contact you, Larry, for a numerology
Is
reading or Reiki.
is through Think Focused Act
So
for
that would be with the
numerology.
website,
Yes.
which is
Yeah.
thinkfocusact.com.au. So if we go in there, we can
Yes.
send in a request to actually get a reading with Larry. So, and we'll put
Too
that
good.
into the YouTube as well. All right. Well, thanks, Larry. That was really interesting. So
No
we'll be
worries.
on part
Too
4.
good,
We'll
Amanda.
cover.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we'll cover on part 4. We'll be moving on to sort of 10, the master numbers, 11 and 22.
11.
So that'll be really interesting as
Yeah.
well. And obviously covering Capricorn, and Aquarius and Pisces. All right.
Pisces.
Well,
Too
see you
good.
then.
Thanks,
See you soon.
Amanda. Cheers.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Bye. Bye.